Hi everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to make a Halloween card, and this is for a special video hop that has been happening all month long. Katie over at Hook, Line, and Inker on Instagram organized this really fun Halloween video hop that has been happening since the beginning of October. I'm going to link to her blog post down below, but go over there, go through all the videos, leave a comment on each one, and it doesn't have to be anything huge, just a hello, love your card, love your project, whatever, but leave a comment on each one of those videos, and then you will be entered into a grand prize at the end of the month. So head on over to the blog post, links down in the description. Also down in the description, all the supplies I'm using today. I'm going to be using Cracker Box and Susie stamps today because they just came out with so many fabulous Halloween stamps the past few months. I couldn't not use their stamps. So I'm starting off with my Misty today and stamping this large glass jar along with the little cork topper, and I'm stamping that onto heavyweight white cardstock. These are very, very large stamps. These are going to take up the majority of the card front, so that's why I'm using my Misty today. If you don't have a stamp positioner and you have larger stamps like this, just lay them flat on your surface and lay your paper on top to stamp. You can also try things like your cutting plates for your die cutting machine, or a plate like from your kitchen too as well can work really well to stamp larger images like this. I'm using Midnight ink from Catherine Pooler to stamp those. Now, released these past few months have been these great little kind of jar tags. There are all different kinds of them. I'm using the Witch's Brew one today, but there's like one with goblin things on it. Just a lot of really cute sayings on them. I stamped that on white cardstock as well. And now I want to go back to that large glass jar that I'm using, and I'm stamping this on vellum. Because I'm stamping on vellum, I either need to heat emboss this, which I really didn't feel like doing and messing around with, or I can stamp with StazOn ink. I am using the StazOn pigment ink, which you could heat emboss if you wanted to, because it is heat embossable. However, this dries really fast on vellum, so I don't even need to worry about that. So I stamped that down onto my vellum. Then it's time to do some coloring. Now, these are very large images. I struggle coloring really large images with my markers or with colored pencils. So my go-to for super large images like this, where it's just going to be one flat color, is ink blending. I'm using my Catherine Pooler inks today. I'm starting off with some Flirty Fuchsia, and I'm using my Amazon blending brushes to do that blending. I want the darkest to be down towards the bottom of the jar, and then go lighter as I go towards the top. So I'm starting off at the bottom, blending my way up to the top. Super simple and easy to do. Just take your time here, and this is going to be covered up with vellum anyway, so it doesn't need to be completely blended. Now, this would also be great to do some water splotches on if you wanted to. That would be gorgeous as well. Now for the Witch's Brew tag, I am using Tiki Torch ink and a very, very small little blending brush from the set, and I'm just blending that out. Again, keeping the darker color towards the top and the bottom here, keeping it lighter towards the center. And also, these images will be fussy cut a little bit later on down the road, so I do not have to worry about the edges at all getting any color on them, so that's really great for this technique as well. Now finally, I'm going to ink blend that cork top. I'm using a few different colors here on this. I'm using Over Coffee right now, and then I'll come in with a little bit of icing on the cake as well, just to darken up the color a little bit and give it a little bit more depth. And again, keeping this color darker towards the bottom of the cork, lighter towards the top. Now I'll switch over that icing on the cake ink. Because this is the same tone of color, same color family, I'm not going to worry about switching brushes either, which is great for ink blending. I went ahead and fussy cut each one of these images right up to the stamped line. Now when I do that, I like to go over those cut edges with a marker. For the cardstock pieces, the heavyweight cardstock, so that jar, the Witch's Brew, and the cork, I went around with my Memento marker. However, that vellum, if you were to go over with a water-based marker, it would never dry and it would smear. So use an alcohol marker. I'm using my Dick Blick Studio brush marker, or something like a Sharpie that will dry on a non-porous surface. Once I had those pieces done, it's time to create my base for everything to go on top of. So I am using a Cat Scrappiness die. This is the Zigzag rectangle die, the largest one in the set, and I'm die cutting that from some heavyweight white cardstock. To add a little something to that background other than just a die cut, I'll do a little ink blending through a stencil. You could also just do regular ink blending, start in the center, go lighter as you go out, but I love adding a little bit of texture with the stencil. This stencil is from the Crafters Workshop. It's a very simple line stencil. It is from their cake and cookie line. These are food safe stencils, so if you're into decorating cookies or cakes or that kind of thing, save these for your kitchen and use them on your baked goods. But if you're like me and you're not a baker, I like to take these in my craft room, but once they go in your craft room, they can't go back to the kitchen, especially if you're putting things you probably shouldn't be ingesting through them, like your embossing paste and that kind of thing. You don't want to be eating that. So leave these in your craft room once they're in there. I use some Twilight ink to go ahead and blend through that with a jumbo dauber. Now on that base, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. This is also from Crackerbox and Susie Stamps. Now I just want the wicked on the front of this. So in order to do that, I'm going to do some selective inking, and I'll just cover up that bottom portion of the sentiment with a piece of painter's tape and ink up the wicked. I'm using Midnight ink from Catherine Pooler to do that. Just remember to remove your tape before you stamp it down. I don't know how many times I've forgotten to remove the tape, and then you're left with a big smudge. So just remove your tape, stamp it down, you'll be good to go. There's a closer look at that sentiment on the front. Absolutely love the way that looks. Now, it would kind of be weird just to have wicked on the front and not finish off the sentiment on the inside. So I'll go ahead and start on the inside of my card. I stamped the Never Look So Good with the Midnight ink from Catherine Pooler. This is directly inside my card base. I like to finish my card base before I finish the front, especially when I'm doing some foam mounting on it, because then it doesn't fit in my MISTI very well. So I like to go ahead and finish the card base before I load it up on the front. I went ahead and stamped Time to Cast Some Nasty Spells underneath my finished sentiment, and then behind that I'm going to add a little image of this cauldron. I want it to be super light and faint, so I grabbed the Twilight ink, and to make it even lighter, I'll do some second generation stamping and just stamp off onto an extra sheet of paper, and then stamp down the remaining leftover ink right on top of those sentiments on the inside, and it creates just a nice like ghosted image behind them, so it's not too overpowering how it would be if I just stamped directly with the ink. So I have the inside done. I can go ahead and finish the outside and load it all up onto the card base. The first thing I want to do is put together my little jar. So I'm using some liquid adhesive to go ahead and place that cork right down onto the purple jar that I went ahead and ink blended. Now this is where that little clear piece is going to come in really handy and make the cork look as if it's inside the jar. I attached the witch's brew with foam tape onto the front of the jar. Then behind that I added more foam tape just behind that. If you go anywhere else, you're going to be able to see the adhesive. I overlaid that vellum right on top, and it looks like a real jar, which I absolutely love. I attached that to the die cut with some more liquid adhesive, and then attached the whole panel to my card base that I had already stamped on the inside. There's a look at that jar all put together. It's such a neat little element to have on the front, and I think it would be especially neat if you added some of those little water droplets on the inside too. That would be super cool and make it look like it's really kind of bubbling in there. Now to finish off the rest of the card, all I did was add a few jewels from Cat Scrappiness, and those are the black rainbow jewels, which kind of completed the whole card and brought the whole thing together. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and a look at my Halloween card for this hop. Don't forget to head down to the description box for all the information. That is going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crafting, everyone.